Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie and today I'm so excited to be reviewing Starrily new Liminal Dreams collection. I first want to give a big thank you to Starrily for sponsoring this video. So while that means that I'm getting paid to swatch and share these with you all, my thoughts and opinions are still going to be 100% my own, which is the case for every single video. So the Liminal Dreams collection features an 8-piece lineup of different shades and finishes. Most of them are shimmers, but we do have a new magnetic as well as a new topper. As usual, I will save more of my thoughts for the end after some comparisons. For now, let's just get into the swatches. First up, we have Persistent Realm, an enchanting seafoam crelly filled with a pink shimmer that shifts to peach and gold in extreme angles. The formula on this was so smooth and buttery, it was just a dream to apply. No pun intended, but that's going to be the case for the rest of the formulas in this collection. As you can see though, this one definitely is very sheer, so you still see straight through to my visible nail line even after 2 coats. I personally don't mind it so much because I feel like the color and the shimmer is built up so beautifully that it gives it a soft, ethereal kind of glow, very fairy-like. And for my swatches, I'm also going to be topping them with Starrily's Atmos Ultra Glossy Voluminizing Top Coat. Even though it's described as voluminizing, I didn't find that this one was super thick or plumping necessarily. Maybe it would be easier to tell with a glitter polish, for example. So I'm excited to continue testing this one out, but my first impressions using it for this collection, I thought it was a beautiful top coat. It was just very smooth to apply. It was super shiny and glassy, and it dried relatively fast as well. So back to the polishes here, I'm wearing Persistent Realm in 2 coats in natural lighting. Hopefully you can see that beautiful shift to peach and gold in extreme light. I feel like it looks like a sunrise. It is so pretty, but like I mentioned, this one is a bit on the sheer side, so you could always do a 3rd coat or maybe use a blurring base. Next, we have Somnia, which is a delicate, cool-toned cloud pink in a sheer, milky base featuring a strong cobalt blue shimmer. This was another absolute beauty. It had such a great formula that was just so even coverage. It self-leveled nicely. As expected though, being a milky, sheer kind of pink, you are still going to see some visible nail line and a decent amount of it too. Again, I personally think it is passable on 2 coats because I don't mind that much visible nail line. I think it is milky enough that it's pretty obscured, and especially under all of that glowy blue shimmer, it's not that much of a bother to me, but I still did do a 3rd coat for this one just to show you how much more coverage you can get, where it's still not 100% opaque, but a little bit closer. For my full hand swatch, I decided to also use a blurring base coat, but I'm only wearing it on my ring and pinky fingers, so hopefully you can see the comparison compared to the first 2 fingers where there's a tiny bit more visible nail line showing. I'm still wearing 2 coats of Somnia for each finger though, so let me know if you like the inclusion of seeing the blurring base coat. I thought it would be a little bit helpful, especially for the more sheer shades. Next up, we have Dream Logic, a sheer mystical azure packed with a dreamy blend of glowing purple, pink, and blue shimmers, a multi-chrome shimmer that shifts from cornflower to fuchsia to golden peach in extreme angles, as well as a fine holographic dusting. I think this is my top favorite from this collection. I was so blown away by how glowy and ethereal this one looks. I love the shade of blue, and just all of the shimmers in here are so pretty. I just can't get over how bright and glowy this is. I feel like it kind of gives me mermaid vibes too. I just love it so much. The formula was also the same as the others so far, where it is just so smooth, super easy to apply. It's just a bit on the sheer side, though I think it had pretty great coverage on 2 coats. At least you didn't see as much visible nail line as you do in direct sunlight, which makes sense. Again, I am wearing the blurring base coat on my ring and pinky finger and 2 coats of the polish on top and the top coat. So using a blurring base or doing a 3rd coat is probably going to be better if you want fuller coverage. Up next we have Reality Shift, which is a dreamy mid-tone lavender with a silver magnetic shimmer that reveals multicolored Aurora shimmers that shift between bright green, aqua, and indigo, and it has a dusting of Holo. As expected, this one had another beautiful formula that was just so even coverage, so smooth and easy to apply. It is just a bit sheer on that first coat, but I think it does provide pretty great coverage on 2 coats, especially since the base in this one is a little bit darker than the others so far. Not to mention it's absolutely packed with this glowy shimmer that I feel like kind of distracts from any visible nail line. So I don't think you would need a 3rd coat for this one, but of course it comes down to preference and also your nail length and maybe even the application technique as well. Like if you're doing the cat eye effect, you might need a 3rd coat, but doing the velvet or no effect I think is totally fine in just 2 coats. And for my full hand swatch in Natural Sunlight, I think you can see a little bit more visible nail line. I actually skipped the blurring base coat for this one just because I thought it wasn't as sheer as the other polishes. So it's no surprise that you're going to see the most visible nail line in direct sunlight, but it is still very minimal here and it pretty much goes away in lower or indirect kind of lighting. The only downside is that the magnetic effect also looks a little bit weaker or diffused in lower lighting. It's not as crisp, especially with the cat eye effect. Next we have another blue. This one is called False Awakening, which is an ethereal sky blue jelly filled with a twinkling peachy golden shimmer particle. I also have a little bit of a wonky hair that I snipped, so don't mind that. But yeah, the formula on this was as expected with the other polishes. It is so buttery smooth to apply, very even coverage. It's just giving that sheer ethereal sort of vibe. So you do get a decent amount of coverage on the second coat. I think the shimmer particle in this is a little bit larger than in the other polishes we've seen, so it kind of distracts from the visible nail line, but I did want to show this with a 3rd coat just to really build it up a bit more. So you can see it provides a little bit more coverage as well as giving it a brighter pop of blue. For my full hand swatch though, I did just do the 2 coats, again with the blurring base on my ring and pinky and the top coat to finish everything off. I was only doing 1 coat of the blurring base by the way, but I think it's most noticeable of a difference on my pinky where it just is the smallest nail, so maybe it got a little bit thinned out on my ring finger, which is why it doesn't look that much different compared to the other 2, at least in direct sunlight. I think in indirect light you can see more visible nail line on my pointer and middle. Then we have Déjà Vu, a medium cinnamon red in a buildable base packed with a finely milled multichromatic shimmer shifting from icy blue to lavender, pink, red, orange, and yellow in extreme angles of light. I was really surprised to see this color in this lineup because I feel like it just kind of doesn't belong, but at the same time I didn't hate it, which was sort of a surprise. I wasn't expecting to like this color on me. There's something about the strong contrast of the cool tone shimmer that you see head on and the warm base that I didn't think was going to be flattering, but I ended up really liking it. Maybe it had to do with the color scheme of the shimmer. You guys know that I can be pretty picky when it comes to multi-chrome shimmers, but I really love that brighter pink and red color it shifts to. I wasn't able to capture the orange and yellow on camera, but it's something I could see in real life. It's just in very, very extreme angles. And the formula on this, as you saw, was so beautiful, incredibly full coverage, definitely the most opaque out of the full collection. So I got this fully opaque for me in 2 coats, and if anything, I would say that this one is a little bit on the pearlescent side, so you might want to be careful with your application. Next we have Flicker, a sheer warm gold jelly base with a caramel undertone filled with a semi-pearlescent duochrome shimmer shifting between bright lime green to a bubblegum pink in extreme angles. Not to sound like a broken record, but this one had another flawless formula that was just so smooth to apply. It was very even coverage, just sheer on the first coat, which is expected for a specialty finish yellow, similar to False Awakening. Awakening, I think the shimmer in this is a slightly larger size, so I feel like it does obscure the visible nail line, at least when you're looking at it head on. So I decided to stop at 2 coats for my live swatch since it didn't look that noticeable, but then seeing it in direct sunlight, of course, you are gonna see even more visible nail line. And even with a blurring base coat again on my ring and pinky, it's still gonna be pretty noticeable, so you might either want to double up on a blurring base and do 3 coats if you're looking for 100% full opacity. I wouldn't recommend layering this though, because I feel like it is going to alter the color. As you saw in very extreme lighting, the shimmer does shift to pink, but you really see more of that caramel undertone. So while I didn't love the shade, it definitely is pretty unique. And rounding out the collection, we have Artificial Sun, a clear base topper filled with glowing, iridescent shards in various sizes that shift between flashes of warm gold, periwinkle, and medium blue. I thought this topper was so beautiful. It looks so dainty and magical, even over a clear base. So I'm just showing the 1 coat here for my live swatch as well as my full hand swatch, and you can see I even got a massive flaky on my ring finger there. I'm not always a fan of like super large glitter or flaky pieces, but when they are in these like various sizes, I'm a lot more forgiving of it. As expected with iridescent toppers, they really transform over different bases and even in different lighting. Here it is in 1 coat over white and black, where they just look like 2 totally different toppers. I especially love how it looks over white, where it just pulls a little bit more in that blue and purple family, which is also how it pulled over the majority of the collection, honestly. I was kind of surprised to see that whether it was over the lighter shades or even the darker shades, it still primarily looked blue and purple, but with some flashes of yellow, as you can hopefully see when I move my nail down. I think these flakies are also a bit more opaque than a lot of other iridescent flakies that are usually a bit more translucent, so maybe that has something to do with it. And here are my full hand swatches in direct sunlight for the Liminal Dreams collection. I'm wearing 2 coats of each polish, except for the topper that again is just 1 coat over the clear base coat. Still not sure how I feel about Déjà Vu being a part of this lineup, but it is a pretty polish. Moving on to comparisons, we're starting with Persistent Realm, and I wanted to quickly show it next to Polar Light Show, which is the magnetic from their last collection. That one is a lot more of an aqua blue, so I wouldn't call it a dupe. If anything, the closer shades to this are Mooncat's Earth to Gaia or Holotaco's Moon Lagoon, both of which are those soft sea foam kind of crully bases with a pinky peachy shimmer, though hopefully you can tell that Mooncat's Earth to Gaia has more of that stronger pinky purple color head on. I would say that the shimmer is most similar in Moon Lagoon. It's just a little bit more subtle, and the base is also a bit lighter, so not an exact dupe. I figured I could also show this next to Mooncat's Ocean Lies and Cirque's Introverde from the MXM Tune collection, just because I thought these were all still in the similar kind of color family. Ocean Lies is the most sheer of these 3 with a more peachy yellow shimmer head on. I was actually surprised to see how close Introverde was to Starrily. It's just a little bit of a darker base and also packed with holo, so again, not an exact dupe, but really close vibes. Next for Somnia, here's a quick bottle comparison next to Aphrodite, which is more of a pinky purple colored polish with a more yellow shimmer head on, so definitely not a dupe. The closer polish from Starrily is probably going to be Puppy Love. That one has a similar cotton candy base, but the shimmer color is a much lighter shade of blue compared to the Cobalt in Somnia. And here it is next to Mooncat's A Midsummer's Dream and Aphrodisiac, which are also light pink crully bases with blue and purple shimmers respectively. The shimmer in A Midsummer's Dream is much lighter, similar in color to Puppy Love, where it's not that cobalt color, and Aphrodisiac is a little bit more purpley leaning, and the base I think is also a little bit warmer, so I wouldn't call any of these dupes necessarily, but they're all similar for sure. And here is Somnia next to Holotaco's Cloud 9 and Cirque's True Love's First Kiss. Both of these again are pinks with blue shimmers, but Cloud 9 definitely has a much lighter shimmer color, again kind of aqua leaning, similar to Puppy Love or A Midsummer's Dream. The shimmer in Cirque is a little bit darker, but not as dark as Somnia, and not to mention the base is also a lot warmer and more sheer. Next for Dream Logic, I was immediately reminded of shades like Mooncat's Mermaid Bait or Holotaco's Spyglass, just because I was thinking of light, bright blues that are very glowy, but pulling them out next to each other, they do not compare. I mean, you can see just how much darker Dream Logic is. Maybe it's a bit closer to Spyglass compared to Mermaid Bait, but I still wouldn't call it a dupe. I think Dream Logic just has a much more glowy shimmer. So for a slightly deeper blue base, I thought I could show this next to Cirque's Wipeout, which I thought looked pretty close in the bottle, but the main difference is that the shimmer in Wipeout is a much more brighter aqua turquoise sort of color, but even swatched on the nail, the base of Wipeout is also like a shade or two darker, so I wouldn't call these dupes. And for reference, here it is next to Mooncat's Dewpearls from their Remedy collection. That one does have these blue and purple shimmers, but it's just a much lighter shade of blue. And lastly, here it is next to Holotaco's Cowboy Tears, which I thought was going to be the closest when it comes to this bright azure blue with this pinky purple shimmer. Cowboy Tears obviously also has all this extra holo in there, but even the base colors are just very different, and the shimmer again is the most glowy in Starrily. Moving on to Reality Shift, here it is next to the Cat's Meow, which is another purple I have from Starrily. That one leans a lot more periwinkle and it has a copper shimmer, so definitely not dupes. This is just for reference. Let's say the closer potential dupes I have are Mooncat's Ghost Ship and ILNP's Amped, both of which are purples with silver magnetic pigments. As I'm sure you can tell though, Mooncat's Ghost Ship is a lot darker, more of a violet indigo kind of a purple. Amped is a lot closer, but it is a bit warmer toned, and the shimmer doesn't stand out as much as it does in Starrily. Next for False Awakening, I'm bringing back Mooncat's Mermaid Bait and Dewpearls, both of which are bright sky blues with shimmer. As I mentioned before though, the shimmer in Dewpearls is more of that light sky blue to purple, and Mermaid Bait does shift to yellow in extreme angles and even green, but head on it's pink, so it's still very different from False Awakening. But I will say that the base color is more similar in Mermaid Bait. Some other shades I was reminded of were Cirque's Tipsy Turvy and Pahlish's Send Nudis, which is a previous Pahlish pickup shade. Both of these do have much warmer shimmers that are kind of coppery orange and red, so they're not yellow head-on like False Awakening is, but I think the base color in both of these is a little bit closer. And lastly, here it is next to Rogue's Persuasion, which my bottle has faded, unfortunately. It used to be more of a purple color, but since it's this sort of blue shade, I figured it would be a little bit closer, especially having that yellow shimmer head on. But that one's more of a chrome, almost metallic shimmer, so it's still very different. Next for Déjà Vu, here's a quick look at it next to Aurora Ignite, which is the magnetic from their Northern Lights collection. That one's a much deeper, more crimson red with a yellowy green shimmer instead of blue. Other shades that I thought were closer were Mooncat's Whiskey Sunrise or even Lust for Vengeance. The shimmers in both of those are very different than Déjà Vu, but I think the base color in Whiskey Sunrise is a little bit closer, being that cinnamon red. Lust for Vengeance is a deeper berry pink color. Then for Flicker, here it is next to AU, which is the gold metallic from Starrily. That one has more of a foily kind of finish compared to the greenish shimmer in Flicker. I think the closer shades were Mooncat's Murraya's Melody or even Demeter's Harvest, both of which are crelly yellow bases with a greenish shimmer. Murraya's Melody is a bit lighter though, more of a pastel color. I think Demeter's Harvest is closer, but hopefully you can see that caramel undertone in Flicker. And lastly, for Artificial Sun, the closest that I have to this is Holotaco's Lunar Unicorn Skin, which is another iridescent flaky topper that is primarily yellow with flashes of blue and purple, but it also has some pops of pink and green as well. I think the flakies in Lunar are a bit smaller and more uniform in size and shape. Like, they still are irregular, but they're not as varied as what you see in Artificial Sun. And like I mentioned before, I think Artificial Sun's flakies are a bit more opaque. They don't look as translucent or maybe as color shifty as Lunar Unicorn Skin. So I'm showing both in one coat each over a clear base coat, over white, and over black, so you can hopefully get an idea of the shiftiness. So that wraps up my swatches and comparisons for Starrily new Liminal Dreams collection. As always, I would love to know your thoughts on this release, because if you know me and my taste, you know that these are just so up my alley. I'm always going to be a fan of any kind of soft, whimsical, dreamy lineup and color palette. So it's no surprise that I'm a big fan of this collection, even though admittedly they are more of what I would consider like a spring pastel lineup versus what I'm craving for summer, which are just brighter shades. Objectively speaking, they're still amazing polishes, which is pretty much what I expect from Starrily. The only time I've ever struggled with their formulas was with their neons, unfortunately, but every other polish that's just a specialty finish kind of shade has always been super consistent, so these are no exception to that. So the Liminal Dreams collection is available now, so I will have Starrily's website linked down below, and they were also super kind enough to create a discount code for my audience. So if you use the code PolishedYogi, you'll save 10% off your order. To be clear, this is not an affiliate kind of discount, so I won't be earning a commission if you use it, but you obviously will still be getting the savings. It is also unlimited use as well, so whenever you're picking up Starrily, you can use my code to save some money. Again, a big thank you to Starrily for sponsoring this video. I really hope that you all enjoyed this review. Make sure to leave me a like if you did, especially if you found the comparisons helpful, or just let me know any and all thoughts you have down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!